Imagine Jesus had control of your prayer life. How would it look different? In this series, Walking with Jesus, we're going to think today about the times that Jesus spent in prayer. Paul says, "For me to live is Christ." So let's think about how Jesus prayed. At the beginning of his ministry, he spent 40 days in prayer and fasting out in the wilderness. And he is the very Son of God himself, one with God the Father, who has the full Spirit of God within him. And yet, he spends 40 days in prayer and fasting. Why? Well, as a human being, he wouldn't have known everything. We know that he says that he doesn't know the time that he's going to return. And he wanted to spend this time in prayer to seek God's guidance, the guidance of God the Father. He later says in his ministry, "These are not my words that you hear, but the words of him who sent me." He says, "I only do what the Father tells me to do." So he was out there seeking God's guidance for his ministry, which was going to be so important. Now, if the Son of God himself needed to spend that kind of time in prayer, how much more do we? I don't think he's going to call on each one of us to spend 40 days in prayer and fasting. And our role is not going to be like that of Jesus to that degree. But in our own way, we need to take prayer and seeking God's guidance very seriously indeed, if he did that. You might say, well, I'm busy, how much time can I spend? And I'm sure the devil will say, why are you just sitting there praying? You've got so much to do. You could be out doing something. You're wasting your time. And that is an argument that comes time and time again, either consciously or subconsciously in our minds. But you know, Jesus was so busy when his ministry started, crowds and crowds of people would come to him to be healed, to hear his teaching. Famously, so many came that he had to get in a boat and go further off from shore so he could speak to all the people. Sometimes they didn't have even time to eat, that they were so inundated with the crowds. And yet, Jesus still took time out to pray. It says in Mark's Gospel that while everyone else was asleep, while it was still dark, Jesus got up and went to a lonely place in order to pray. Why? Because he wanted to seek God's strength and guidance for that day, for all that he had to do. How much more then do we need to seek God early in the morning? If it means getting up earlier than we normally do, then let's do it. And not just for 5 minutes so they throw up a quick prayer whilst grabbing breakfast and going out to the car. Spend quality time seeking him. If we really want God to be real in our lives, and surely we do, then we need to spend that kind of time. Even an hour a day with the Lord God Almighty would not be too much, surely. We think, well, an hour a day? That sounds an awful lot. But really, do we really believe that the God who controls the universe, who has our very life in his hands, who controls everything that goes on around us, that spending an hour with him is too much to find his guidance for that particular day and to pray for the other needs around us, not just for our guidance, but for the people around us? When Jesus was going to choose his 12 apostles, he spent a whole night in prayer that time. So when it came to something really important, a decision that was going to basically change the world in his case, he took a whole night to pray. Too extreme? Well, obviously not for him. And if he needed to do it, how much more do we? We find him, of course, the night before being arrested, the night before his trial on the cross, spending the night in prayer in Gethsemane. At difficult times, at times of stress, at times of major turning points in our lives, we need to spend that time seeking God. If the Son of God himself was on his knees crying out to the Father, do you think we can not do that and live the life that God wanted us to live? So let's redouble our commitment to seeking God daily. May God bless you.